The training will take no longer than an hour, and we're going to start with a short video about the programme. ORT Jump is the only UK charity that runs a mentoring programme for Year 12 students, giving them the opportunity to find out everything they need to know about the world of work.
ORT is the only charity that I've really come across that gives A-level students this opportunity to get a real jump start in the workplace and to really find out what their chosen profession means to them and what it means to be working in that environment.
The ORT Jump programme was an incredible experience. It was a chance for me to actually see the real life inside a corporate environment, but being able to actually go into an office on the 23rd floor in a central London space was incredible, and I don't really know how I would have got there without ORT.
It's so good that we get the chance to see something that we would never have the opportunity to see. It's so hard to get into contact with someone that you want in your field of what you want to go into in the future, and it offers you the chance to explore the area.
We make every effort to match each student with a mentor that they are interested in. We've had requests from people who want to be pilots and psychologists. We have engineers at HS1. Nothing is too difficult for us to try and locate.
We're not just offering opportunities to the Jewish schools, but we've also taken on board 4 Camden schools. These are state schools where we're very proud to be able to stand up and say that this is a Jewish programme, and it's been so successful in our community that we want to share it with the wider community.
The fact that ORT UK is a Jewish charity supporting us in a Catholic school, I actually find in many ways unsurprising, very lovely, but unsurprising. It's perfectly within the Jewish ethos to reach out to people of other faiths and support them.
It is wonderful to see that something that's so precious to our community is now being offered elsewhere as well. And I think this is a great opportunity to expose the Jewish community in a really positive light, to provide opportunities not just for our young people, but for all young people.
Young people make a difference. Young people learn things that we do, and they take them and then they use that idea and they expand on it, and they think of things that I could never think of because I'm too old. We need youngsters with bright ideas.
I think the ORT Jump programme has been brilliant because it gives all kids the opportunity, no matter their background, to see what life can be like outside of the classroom.
If we see it in terms of the benefits to us of having these fantastic young people in the health service, in government, at the top of industry, it's actually essential.
When you're in Year 12 at school, you have no idea what you want to do for a career, and that's why I see the value in donating to charities like ORT, because they will ensure that leadership programs like ORT Jump continue to prosper and continue to help young, naive students like myself, and they allow us to learn about what they can do with their career.
We're going to start this evening with an overview of what your experience will be like as a mentor on the programme. We're going to take you through some core mentor skills, which we think you may find useful. And then there'll be a section on working with teenagers. We'll give you some suggested guidelines and some agendas, which are by no means fixed, but just a suggestion. Then we are lucky enough to have a couple of mentors this evening who will share their experiences with us of their time on the programme. And at the end, there'll be a short time for some questions. So if you do have any questions as we're going along, please do feel free to submit them during using your chat function, as we said earlier. The programme takes place over 1 academic year. And during this time, you'll have 4 one-hour meetings. There'll also be the opportunity for the students to attend some career evenings, which in the past have taken place live, but this year, obviously because of this situation, the COVID situation, will probably take place online. These usually happen in February, and they take place in law, finance, medicine, and psychology. So if anyone here would like to volunteer to speak at one of our careers evenings, please do let us know. In order to graduate, the students must complete a reflective writing assignment by the end of June. And this is a one-page essay on their experiences on the programme. And at the end of the year, we hold a graduation, which is the highlight of our year. All of our mentors, students, teachers, and parents come together for a celebration of the students' fantastic achievements on the programme. We always have a fantastic speaker, and it really, really is a great event. So put it in your diary. It is going to be on Tuesday, the 6th of July next year. Hopefully we'll be able to have that as a live event, but if not, we'll do it how we did last year, which was online. Here you can see a timetable of the programme. Oops, sorry, you could see a timetable of the programme. We're currently in the training phase. And next week, we are going to train our students. They're going to attend a session which is similar to this one, so that they will be able to get the most out of the programme. Then Anna and myself will take on the very exciting task of matching you to a student. This matching process does take some time, but should be completed by the end of November. You will then be contacted by your student to arrange your first meeting, and this should happen by mid-December. If you don't hear from the student, please do let us know straight away so we can get onto them and chase them. You should then have your subsequent meetings in February, March, April, and May, culminating with the graduation reception in July. What are our aims and objectives of the programme? These are our desired outcomes. I think probably the most important thing for us is that the student is encouraged to develop professional life skills. So you need to encourage good communication from them and presentation skills, face-to-face and in writing. Advise them how to best conduct themselves in a professional environment and how to organise themselves, and really draw the best out of them and try to be motivating, positive and encouraging. You may find when you first meet your student that they're late or that they turn up ill-prepared. If that is the case, as your mentor, you are in a position, it's well within your rights to gently correct them. It's also up to you to assist the student in understanding your role within the industry, as well as wider related issues which are connected to your industry. Provide an overview of the industry, tell them how you got into your industry, and if you can, explore other roles within the industry and maybe introduce them to some colleagues and start them off with networking if you feel that you are in a position to do so. Direct them towards industry-related resources and show them how they should best access these. And establish a positive and professional relationship with the students. Develop mutual trust and respect, which will come over time, and try to maintain your interaction regularly. Don't let too long go by before connecting with them. And again, if they seem to be dropping off the radar, please do get in touch with us and we can always give them a little nudge. And the code of good practice is something we always have to take our mentors through. A lot of it is common sense, but on occasion we have had situations where these have been breached. So first of all, please do make sure you've applied for your DBS. Do set appropriate boundaries and be aware of your decorum at all times. You're their mentor, not their friend. This is particularly relevant for some of you. This year we've got an enormous amount of mentors who are maybe quite close in age to the students, which is absolutely fantastic. But remember, you are their mentor, not their friend. Do conduct all meetings in a public place, including where meetings are online. Again, especially relevant for this year. A lot of students obviously spend a lot of time in their bedrooms. Please encourage them to come downstairs and kids sit at the kitchen table for your meeting. This is for your own protection as well as theirs. Allow them to talk about their concerns, but respect their right for privacy, and treat them respectfully. Model good behavior. They're going to be taking their example from you. So don't engage in any inappropriate behavior or language. Don't meet them at home or give them any alcohol or engage with them on social media except for LinkedIn. They may ask you, we always tell them, don't ask for Facebook friend requests, but they may ask you to. Just make sure you tell them that you can't do that. And don't encourage them to discuss personal issues with you, and be clear with them that you're not bound by confidentiality. And that means that if they do tell you something that they feel or would like to be confidential and you're worried about it, please do tell us. DBSs. Following a safeguarding review at ORT UK, this is actually the first time this year we have required our mentors to be DBS checked. And many of you have already applied, so thank you very much for doing so. This is again to protect you, the students, and ORT UK. If you already have a valid DBS, please let us have the number, and that way we can get off your backs and stop nagging you. We're doing this through a third party called UCheck, because UCheck seemed to be the easiest and most efficient way to do this. ORT UK will cover all costs for the DBS check, which is £10.40 per check. But if you would like to donate to cover this cost, we really would very much appreciate it. We're trying to make it as easy as possible, and in order to do that, we've actually taken on a young man called James Collins, who is going to be contacting you to check your IDs. So that won't be us doing that, it will be James, so you can expect to hear from him. I'm going to hand you over to Anna now.
Okay, hi everyone, good evening. My name's Anna and I work with Mia, and together we run the ORT Jump programme. We're just going to go through a few more slides. If anybody wants a copy of anything that we've talked about tonight, do email us and we'll happily send you the PowerPoint over. So don't worry about making notes as we go along. We will be sending this to you if you require it. What's in it for our students? The benefits to the mentees. This cohort has had an incredibly tough time. They've had 6 months without being at school. They're back to school, they're keen, they want to get on. We have been inundated with applications. We've had nearly 350 applications from students this year. What's the benefit to them? Guidance, support, encouragement and connection. They want to know from you, are you knowledgeable? Can they learn from you? Are you able to support them? Can you encourage them? Can you be positive? Can you connect with them? We want to tell you a little bit about managing expectations. Aim to establish a positive and professional relationship with the student. The matching might not happen straight away. Mia and I are working very closely on this, and we need to take quite a long time to make sure we get it right. If you don't hear from us straight away, bear with us because we are trying to find the correct student for you. We might ask some of you to mentor more than one student, or if you're prepared to take on more than one student, let us know. In the past, mentors have told us that they have done this and that they have chosen to meet their students together, and actually they bounce ideas off each other so they get something more from it. General mentoring. In the current climate, some students may benefit from mentoring in areas that are not necessarily industry related. In some instances, we may match you with a student who is unsure of their future industry choice, but they're just looking for an adult to talk to who is not their parent or their carer. And sometimes this is the first contact that they have had with this adult. If we do this, we will run this by you first. Working with a reluctant student. Don't take it personally. Remember, they're teenagers. Be persistent with your attempts. Be firm, but be kind. Don't blame yourself. Some students just aren't ready. Let's just talk a little bit about boundaries. Causes for concern. As we all know, mental health issues are on a dramatic rise. Be alert to mentees sharing personal information. Do not keep this information confidential. It is beyond your remit. Please get in touch immediately if you think your mentee might be in mental or physical danger. We've got very good relationships with all of our schools, and we've got all the contacts of all the safeguarding officers there. We won't be dealing with any of these issues. We will pass it straight on to them. We just have to mention this because we just have to cover this, but I want you all to know in the 12 years, we've only ever had one issue of this. Top tips for working with teens. Model the behaviour you wish to see. Be clear with your instructions. Explain and always try and give feedback to your student. They are trying to constantly learn from you. Be fully present. Giving our full and undivided attention to others is hugely impactful. Try not to be on your phones. We know that we will tell them to not be on their phones. In fact, we'll be encouraging them to bring pens and papers along to all their sessions with you. Empower the student. Make them feel important. Ask them questions, show interest in them, and give them choices. Be collaborative and keep checking in. We're trying to fill these students with confidence. Set them a challenge. Suggest something that they might like to do or read for the following sessions, or share a podcast with them that you might have listened to recently. Most importantly, be yourself, be genuine and be sincere, and build a rapport with your mentee. They just need you to be you. The silent partner. Just to remind you all that Mia and I are the silent partner. Please CC us in all your correspondence so we can see how things are progressing. We vet each student on the scheme. Each student, as Mia said, will attend training to prepare them for the programme. We will be running the flip side of this with them in the next couple of weeks. Each pairing is matched very, very carefully. If you have any questions at any point, get in touch with us. You can either contact myself or Mia. We're just going to run a little bit through the agendas for each meeting just to give you an idea. These are only suggested agendas, and we know from past from some of our mentors that they do change this, but this is just to give you an idea. The first meeting is all about getting to know each other. Ideally, we'd like this to take place before the Christmas holidays. Agree and sign a one-page informal contract that we will be sending to both you and your student. Encourage your student to discuss their schools, their courses, their hobbies, to tell them a little bit about themselves. Ask them if they have done any volunteering. Discuss their objectives for the programme. Discuss your job and your career journey. Discuss the day-to-day aspects of your jobs and agree a date and agenda for the next meeting. It's really important to try and do this at the end of every meeting. At the next meeting, we want you to try and tell them how to sell themselves. Assist them with their personal statement, help them with CV writing, work together to build a detailed LinkedIn profile. Share your LinkedIn profile with them. Express the importance to your student, the value of volunteering. These students would normally have done the Duke of Edinburgh or other things in the last 6 months. These opportunities have been taken away from them, so they will be looking for other ideas that they can get for things to put on their personal statement. We're not asking you to provide them with those things, we're just asking those to discuss other ideas with them. Discuss the importance of first impressions. Discuss the area of your industry which will most interest the student. We'll be providing you with additional resources throughout the year to help you on this. Set personal goals with them. Meeting 3 we know is a bit hard in the present circumstances. Normally it would be a workplace tour or attending a real life meeting. If possible, take the student on your workplace tour. We know this is not going to be possible in the majority of situations. Encourage your student to share their career goals, what their educational plan is to achieve these goals. If you are able to bring them into a virtual meeting or to a real meeting, introduce them to some of your colleagues. If you can't do this, maybe consider setting up a mock interview with your student. The final meeting should be completed by the 28th of May. Together, we'd like you to evaluate the programme with your student. Discuss your mentee's final essay. This is for your mentee to produce. This should be about their experience on the programme, how they have benefited from it, and what they have learned from you. This essay is for the student to complete. This essay should be about 500 to 750 words and should be emailed to me by the 7th of June. Remember to put the date for the graduation ceremony in your diary. I know Mia talked about that earlier. The winners of the best essays will be given an award and it is something for them to talk about. This program is very niche. These students that do it are very, very lucky. I'm going to hand over to Dan Reinhold, who is our ORT Jump Mentor Ambassador. He's been a mentor now for a couple of years, and he's going to talk about, for 2 or 3 minutes, about his experience on the program.
Good evening to you all. I speak to you live from KPMG's newest Mill Hill office. I suspect my office looks somewhat like the rest of yours right now. I'm coming into my 4th year as a mentor with ORT, and I have to say it's been one of the best things I've done. I think I reflect each year when I get to the graduation ceremony, and I sort of look back on the year that I've spent and some of the other things I've done outside of my day job, and it honestly is one of the most worthwhile things I do. I think it's a fabulous opportunity to work with students and teenagers, and what is really quite a formative part of their education. I reflect on my own education and my own sort of career development, as some of you will, and no one sat me down and talked with me a little bit about what is the real world of work like. How do you react to that as I look ahead to university and consider some of those things? And that's what you have the opportunity to do. As Anna said, you know, for many of the students, this will be their first real adult sort of engagement with someone that isn't a member of their family. And so for the students to take the opportunity to start to engage on a kind of more adult perspective, or a more mature perspective, this is sometimes the first opportunity they have, and so they're finding their way. And for me, it's always interesting and helpful to be able to spend time with them to do that. And so when we sit down, and if we meet at a coffee shop or we meet at Costa and we have our first sort of conversation, I have to remind them to say things like to take notes. So that, because, you know, when I go to a business meeting, I'm talking to clients, it's a sign of courtesy. And so from my own memory, that I take notes of our discussion so that I can replay those back afterwards. And I learned something, and I can remember what we talked about in the discussion. And so I remind them of that. If I think about sort of some of the biggest thrills that I get from being a mentor, it's sometimes the opportunity to get into conversations with them that I almost wish that someone had had with me at that age. And, you know, some of you will reflect on your own careers, right? But I was maybe 3 or 4 years into my career when I first started to understand the concept of what it was to be maybe left brain or right brain, and that maybe I was more a big picture thinker and a more creative thinker, as opposed to someone that was more linear thinker. I wasn't necessarily suited to certain types of career, but I was perhaps suited to maybe more creative or people-based sort of careers. And I wish I'd have had that conversation perhaps with someone at 17, when they'd sort of say to me, you know, have you thought, are you a sort of people type person, or you're better with data, or, you know, what is it that you enjoy? What is it you enjoy inside of school, outside of school? And some of these basic things, and these are sometimes the conversations we have early on, and I'll send them a couple of articles. I always find something like Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Occasionally I just share stuff like that with them, or I'll share a little article or a YouTube video, because stuff like that is brilliant, just for them to start to hear some of these principles that they haven't necessarily heard. If they're anything like my 15 or 16-year-old son, they're spending their time playing Fortnite and not reading Stephen Covey and business books. If I think about the opportunities I've got from the program, one of the things we've done, and I share time an evening for those students thinking of going into the city or in finance, and we'd get a sort of a panel of a couple of mentors together, 4 of us, and we'd sit there with the students, and they'd come into Canary Wharf, we'd sit them in our office on this sort of these cascade stairs that we've got, and we'd talk to them about what is life like in the city, you know, what are the types of careers, what to expect. And the first question I always used to ask when we'd have sort of 40 or 50 students sitting there is I'd ask them to put their hands up if they'd ever been in a building, like a skyscraper, a classic skyscraper that you get in Canary Wharf. And, you know, of the sort of 40 or 50 attendees, you know, maybe 10 or 15 would put their hands up. And I said to them all, I made a point of specifically saying to them, each of them, and every year I say, you know, you mustn't think that these buildings are not for you and that you don't belong here. Just because they're tall glass steel structures that have security barriers, you're all welcome here. And just because you don't know anyone that maybe work in a business like this, or you've never been in an office like this before, it doesn't mean that your career won't be spent working in a business like this. Now, for some of them, that might be a hideous proposition. For others, actually, I think it's welcoming to hear. There was a great example of a student that came up to Anna afterwards and said that he and his father, they live in Kentish Town. The father works in a kebab shop in Kentish Town, and they'd rehearsed the journey to Canary Wharf over the weekend, because for them that was a big deal. He'd never been to Canary Wharf. His father had never been to Canary Wharf, and they practiced that stuff. And yet this is something that many of us take for granted because we do it every day. And so giving some students different opportunities, showing them a different slice of life and business life is something I value hugely. A final point, just very quickly, the challenges of being a mentor on the program. I think it's as we've already mentioned, we are dealing with teenagers, and they'll have good days and bad days, and sometimes they'll engage, and other days they won't necessarily engage. I think for many of us, I try and sort of figure out, if we're trying to arrange a meeting, I'll send them a WhatsApp, right? And some of them won't necessarily a WhatsApp or an email. Some of them don't engage with WhatsApp or email for kind of days or weeks on end. And so occasionally they do need a little bit of nudging. And sometimes you'll find that you'll suggest dates and they won't necessarily come back to you, or they won't be as naturally as enthusiastic as engaged as you'd expect. But my advice to you is stick with it. Don't sort of take an early impression from your first meeting. They may stay very quiet and they may say very little and have very few questions for you in your first meeting, even your second meeting, but they will warm up as the year goes on. If you have the opportunity, perhaps, and you're not by no means obliged to give work experience, and no doubt we'll touch on this topic. In the past, I've been fortunate enough, I've been able to offer my mentees and my students work experience at the end of the year. You'll see they really do come into their own. But again, as the year goes on, I'm curious. I stay in touch with them from time to time, ask them what their university plans are. I text them around results time just to say, how did you get on? How are things going on? You're not obliged to, but I'm always curious to see whether, I think they appreciate it. They appreciate you checking in with them, and they like to know that you're kind of interested in them and their career and where their path is going. That's it from me.
Thank you so much, Dan. That was so interesting, and particularly the points you made about how the relationship grows from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. You'll definitely all see a marked difference in your students from the first time you meet them to the last time you meet them. So please really do bear with it. And also about the work experience, that's something that we didn't mention. Of course, absolutely, you're not obligated to give your students work experience, and we do prepare them for that. Nevertheless, they sometimes still will ask because they've got a cheek like that. But anyway, I thank you, Dan, and I'm now going to hand over to Joe Binder to tell a little bit about his experience as a mentor.
Hello, thank you very much for having me. I'm absolutely buzzing to be here. And before I introduce myself formally to you, I see that a lot of you are on video, which is great. So if you are as buzzing and as excited as I am to be a part of ORT this year, if you could just raise your hand, that would be absolutely fantastic. I see a lot of you are on camera. There we go. We've got thumbs up. We've got hand raises. We love to see it. So my name is Joe Binder. I'm the founder and CEO of WOW. We build personal brands for founders and CEOs on social media. So I was actually a mentee on the program around 7 years ago. Rob Mindell was my mentor, and I found it so incredibly useful that I took the first opportunity that I could get to become a mentor. I want to echo on something that Dan said just before about the huge, intimidating skyscrapers of central London. I remember when I first went to see Rob Mindell at Accenture on Fenchurch Street, I didn't know how to get in. It was really odd because I didn't know if I was in the right place. I didn't really back myself. I was feeling really nervous. So I asked somebody who was walking past, I was like, is this the right place? And he said, yeah, that's the right place. And he walked through the revolving door, and I just thought, all right, now's my chance. So I thought I'd follow him very closely behind him. Turns out I was too close. And I ended up going into the same kind of cubicle revolving door as him. And it was so painfully awkward. But there you go. There's a lovely story for you. So I want to speak a bit about why I am on this program and also what I get from it, and also some of the challenges. So I'm very, very aware that I've grown up in a really privileged situation. If ever I have felt ambitious, if ever I've wanted to work really hard and seek guidance, I've had the people around me always. There were always people, whether it was at home or at school, to give me their time. And I'm so acutely aware of the fact that there are so many people out there who are the same age as me, that are far more talented than I am. They are far more intelligent and ambitious than I am, but we're starting from completely different places in life. And I see programs like ORT as the most fantastic way of almost democratizing that and help leveling the playing fields and lifting people up, which is why I find it so amazing that this program exists and that so many of you are here today, and you're going to be involved with it moving forward, which is awesome. In terms of something tangible that I've gained from the program, I've realized that as I grow my company, there are a lot of skills that I need to be able to do that successfully. And being able to give proper feedback and constructive advice is one of those things. I'm absolutely terrible at giving feedback. And what I've found with my mentees so far on ORT is that they are so respectful and so genuine and nice that it's actually given me almost this time to practice the way I communicate and practice the way I give feedback and practice the way I give advice to people. And that's something I've been able to directly use with my work as well. So that's something that's been really, really useful for me. In terms of an individual thrill, something that I was really, really pleased about was that I was in the fortunate position to offer Daniel, who I mentored last year, a bit of work experience with WOW, which was awesome. He did a fantastic job. And at the end of it, he did something which I thought was just so, so, so sweet. He bought a customized Chili's water bottle in our brand colors with my name on it, which I thought was just the kindest gesture. And when it comes to things like mentoring, people talk about, you know, how it's rewarding and things like that. And sometimes you can feel as if the rewarding terminology is almost a bit cliche, but it's not. It's people say it because it's true. And that's something that everyone here is going to realize. You know, there will be challenges along the way, but ultimately this is such a good thing to do. You know that you're tangibly helping somebody and you get feedback along, you get feedback along the way as you do that. So it's hugely valuable in that respect. In terms of challenges that I've had as a mentor, I'm also terrible at organization. I'm not really playing myself out, am I? But the briefs that all send over to help guide the session and act as a framework are really, really useful. And I've tried my best to stick to those where possible. What I've found has been useful, particularly with my most recent mentee, is setting homework. I know that's been discussed already, but in Daniel's case, he had his own side hustle. He was selling clothes on Depop and he was doing a really good job. And we had a really clear, tangible conversation about how you go from 50 sales in 1 month to 100 sales in 1 month. And the final kind of the actions of that conversation were me saying to him, right, by the time we meet next month, what are your followers going to be? And then ultimately we want an impact on sales, but what are your followers going to be on that account? And we set a target together, which I thought was ambitious, but doable. And I was delighted to see that when we had the next meeting, he had absolutely smashed his target. And he had got so many more followers on the social media platform. So that, you know, that opportunity of being able to give something very clear and tangible on the strategy front, and then see Daniel, you know, work his arse off to actually get those followers and see that growth in his side hustle was again super rewarding and really, really nice to see. So I think that is all for me now. I hope that was helpful. If anyone wants to chat more about the program, of course, you can message me, but I'm going to hand this back over and mute myself. Thank you very much for listening.
Thanks, Joe. Really appreciate that. You gave us a lot of information there. We're going to hand over to one more mentor who's going to talk very, very briefly. We're going to hand over to Cassie Martell, who has been a mentor for, I think she's done 2 years. And in her first year, no pressure, but her student did win Student of the Year. So I'm going to mute myself and we're going to hand over to Candy.
Just before, because
Cassie.
Cassie is going to be the final mentor to speak, I can see that there aren't any questions yet in the chat function. Please, if anyone does have any questions, now is your time to submit them. So, Cassie.
Hi, everyone. Can I just check that you can all hear me? Yeah, okay, great. Really great to be here, and thanks very much for having me. So I really wanted to be involved in this evening, partly because I'm a mentor and partly because I'm also a trustee of ORT. So I'm very much connected to everything that we do here. But it's great, I'm kind of just trying to scroll across and seeing how many people are on this Zoom, which is amazing. So I thought it would be helpful just to talk a little bit about my experience. So yes, I've done it for 2 years now, coming into my 3rd year. And I have found it such a valuable experience, not only because I think it's a great thing to do and it's a great opportunity for the younger generation to kind of have access to different people and different industries, but also just because it feels like there are very few opportunities that are structured in this way to provide useful help to people who are kind of coming up through school and into the working world. And I think for me, that is pretty much the main reason why I got involved in the first place, because I had been mentoring people on a bit of an ad hoc casual basis. And when I heard about the ORT Jump scheme, it was like, well, why haven't I heard about this before? And actually, this is the perfect solution to kind of engaging with people. So I think probably there are a few things that we were suggested to cover when I spoke to you tonight. And I think probably the main thing that I found was, I guess, the biggest thrill was probably opening eyes and ears to what is well within the mentee's reach. So I think for me that meant really showing them that the working world is not that far away, and also that it's not that terrifying or foreign as they might imagine it to be. And I also really like the idea that I was able to reveal jobs that people didn't necessarily know existed and potentially open up those possibilities for them. So for me, I work at the Royal Academy of Art and I work in development. And I think a lot of people didn't really know what that was, and that it was called development. And when I started explaining the structure of the academy, kind of all the different jobs that factored into making the RA run as a place where maybe some people have visited, it was all new to them, and that was a really amazing thing to be able to do. I think also making the mentees see their strengths and how transferable things are in the working world. So even if you go to university and you think you really want to be a lawyer and you train in that, it doesn't necessarily mean that you might end up doing something completely different. You might not end up in law. And I think just making them aware that that's okay and that's a really exciting prospect rather than a kind of pressure to, continue going down one route. I think also offering the mentees the chance to really understand their value. So giving them the confidence to realize that they do have some amazing skills, even if they didn't necessarily know how to articulate them, and giving them the chance to do that. So I think mainly for me, in terms of opportunities that I've got from being on this program, have been connecting with a younger generation and sharing thoughts and ideas. And also, I think it's really amazing to, as we all work and we know in certain situations we have to position things so it feels relevant to who we're talking to. And I think in the context of being a mentor and having a mentee who is, a different generation, who is younger than you, I think it's a really good chance, and it offers you good experience to position things so it feels relevant. And I think that's good at any level. And I think mainly I've completely enjoyed it. As the guys from ORT just said, I had an amazing 2 mentees, and my first one was really driven and really interested in the whole program and really got a lot out of it and ended up writing a brilliant essay. And I think that it's been a fantastically positive experience for myself and for all the people that I've worked with. In terms of challenges, I think the main thing that I found difficult is distilling experience and tips, I guess, into sort of bite-sized chunks. So I've been mindful that I don't want to kind of overwhelm or inundate people with information. And I guess because the sessions aren't, it's not a huge commitment in terms of time from our perspective, but it's then working out exactly how much information to kind of put into that each session and each time you meet. I think that you're at the end of a meeting, so I want to keep it fairly brief, but that's a kind of summary of my experience. I don't know how it works with questions and stuff, so Mia, Anna, if you want to jump in, but happy to answer any questions if anyone has any.
Thank you so much, Cassie. That was really, really interesting, and very, very kind of you to come on and tell us about your experiences. We do have a couple of questions, a few questions. The first one is the questions I think really are about the program rather than to anyone specifically. Somebody's asked, what do you recommend us to do if the mentee changes their mind about what they want to do? Should we still engage with them? Well, really, we do tell the mentees that if they change their mind, they should still stick with it, because there is so much value that they can be learned, or that they can learn from you as a mentor, even if it's not exactly the industry that they want to go into. Now, obviously, there will be some situations where the student is adamant that they change, but most often when that happens, we don't really try and find them a different mentor, because the mentors are like gold dust to us, and we prefer the students that we match to be committed from the beginning. So I guess the answer is that definitely you should still engage with them, as long as they're not making it too difficult for you to do so. And the next question.
Okay. I'm going to go to, have we evaluated with the students and mentors that 4 visits are sufficient? We are constantly evaluating the programme, and we're constantly trying to improve it. We started off with 6 meetings. We then went to 5 meetings, and we are trying this year for the first time 4 meetings. We're not sure if it will work. We're not sure if it will be enough. But the mentors do have the opportunity to add in additional meetings. If they don't feel like they are covering the grounds with their students, please do offer them the opportunity to meet them on other occasions. This is just what we are suggesting, what we are recommending. We will let you know by the end of the year if we think 4 visits are sufficient, but let us know as well. We really appreciate your feedback. We can only run this programme if we hear how you are getting on constantly.
And the next question, what if you prefer to mentor someone from one of the Camden schools? Can we ask you to be matched with someone from those schools? Absolutely. If you have a preference for a particular school, or a particular type of school, or a particular type of student, absolutely put your requests to us. We'll always try to accommodate you. That's no problem at all.
Okay, that's it for questions. I don't think we've got any more questions now, but if anyone has anything that they want to ask us, please do email us separately, because we'll always be happy to come back to you. We'd like to thank Cassie, Dan and Joe for giving up your time. And we'd also like to just say that next Wednesday night, ORT UK are running another online event. We have got David Badil and Tracy Ann Oberman in conversation. Please do join us for this event. It's a free event, and it's also an opportunity to learn about what ORT does. And we'd love you to join us. Thank you very much for being with us tonight. We're really excited to kick the programme off. And we really thank you, because without you, we couldn't be running it. So really, and also we're also always looking for additional mentors. So if any of your colleagues want to be interested or want to know more about the programme, do let us know. And if you'd like us to do further training for anyone within your organisation, Mia and I are always happy to run this programme for other people within your organisation. So thank you for giving us your time tonight.
I'm off mute now.